I have a right to record.
Okay. You can take this piece of paper,
Yep.
give it to your attorney,
It's late,
No.
so it's.
I'm
and
giving
that's
it
the
to
way.
Jacob.
And that's the way that happens.
No,
Your
my
attorney-
attorney advised me to go ahead and serve him.
Don't raise your voice at me.
My voice is not raised. This
Take
ain't
the
raised.
take the paper to your attorney, because without a judge's signature, we don't serve it.
Welcome to the channel. I'm Forder to Watch, and this is Jackass Cease and Desist. Today we are going to look into the cease and desist communique that came from Christopher Ryder and Tiffany Napier, addressed to a Mr. Michael Kaiser. But first of all, the officer we just saw telling Christopher that he can't deliver the cease and desist letter is correct. And that's because he's a sheriff. He's not a member, or he is not employed by the United States Postal Service. The Sheriff's Department do not deliver letters. They deliver court orders. The cease and desist communique that Christopher is trying to hand over is a letter. And that can be written by an individual or their legal representative. The second sort of cease and desist is a cease and desist order. And this is issued by a court and will have a judge's signature on it. The difference between the two, between the letter and the order, is that the letter is not legally enforceable. It's just a letter addressed to a recipient asking them to stop. I've had a look at various law firms in Indiana and the Commonwealth of Kentucky and Texas. And there's a common theme between all of these law firms regarding the information that's required on a cease and desist letter. Looking at the letter that was sent to a Mr. Michael Kaiser, and I'd like to be able to show you the one that was sent to JJ Scarborough, but this was screwed up and thrown back at Christopher. And, you know, Christopher being that good little bitch boy, on command of his dominatrix Tiffany, Christopher picks it up so that it's not left lying around.
Pick that up. It's got our address.
I'm
on
not
it.
picking that up. That's his. Let's go.
It's got
We're
our
done.
address on it.
We're done.
At least rip our address off there.
We're done.
Now, the 3 lines at the top of this letter, nice and clear, you know what the letter's about. But there are 2 things to note here. The first one is the word request. Now, the meaning of request is an act of asking politely or formally for something. And just because you request something, it doesn't mean that it has to be done or given. If this was a court order, the word request would not be there. Tiffany, maybe you might be able to explain. You have a different meaning for the word request. Did you maybe get it out of Blacklaw's Dictionary, volume number 2? But I digress, let's continue. The word all. Tiffany, did you get right, girl radio, to type this up for you? Some free advice.
And
Served.
I think you ought to spend more time trying to get your kids back, and you should spend more time not beating women.
Oops, sorry. Not sorry. But seriously, Tiffany, Microsoft Word has a spell checker in it. And if you want to be taken seriously, learn how to use it. Now, in the next line, it's addressed to a Dear Mr. Michael Kaiser. Who is this Mr. Michael Kaiser? According to the US Bureau of Statistics, there's an estimated 20,900 US citizens named Kaiser, and 213 are estimated to be Michael Kaisers. You haven't proved who this letter was supposed to be delivered to. So how do we know that the right Michael Kaiser has actually been sent this letter? Let's take a look at the body of the letter. Continuity. Let's have a look at the phrase cease and desist. It's been used 4 times, 2 times all in capitals, 1 time where the words cease and desist are capitalized, and finally one which is written as cease and desist with hyphens in it. And Tiffany, desist is spelled D-E-S-I-S-T, not D-I-S-I-S-T. So, you know, spelling errors, continuity, I'd be laughing at this letter. The request then states within 10 business days. 10 business days from when? You get a read receipt for this letter, but there's no date. So what date does this letter take effect from? You need to put a date on this letter, Tiffany. Failure to comply with this cease and desist request. How can you comply with a request? All you're doing is asking the person politely. They are under no obligation to. This is a letter. It's not enforceable. And as already mentioned, the recipient of this letter, well, is it the right Mr. Michael Kaiser? I've just shown you I've shown you the cease and desist letter that Christopher Ryder and Tiffany Napier sent to a Mr. Michael Kaiser, and the omissions that they've made in it, the errors that they've made in it, and some spelling mistakes and some continuity. Now let's take a look at the cease and desist letter that I drafted up for Christopher Ryder and Tiffany Napier. As we can see in the top left hand corner, we have Christopher Ryder's name and address and Tiffany Napier's name and address. In the top right hand corner, we can see who the letter has come from and their address. We then have the date that the letter was drafted, and then the subject. Nice, clear and simple. It's a cease and desist letter. Now paragraphs 1 and 2, once again I refer back to Christopher Ryder and his address, Tiffany Napier and her address, and what they're going to be referred to in this letter from hereafter known as the recipients. Paragraph 2, once again for Mr. Jackson Kennedy, his address, and hereafter known as the addressee. I then go down and explain that they both have a YouTube channel, and I list their YouTube channels under their names, what they do, that they are a First Amendment auditor, and that their activity is to stress test the First Amendment. And they do this by recording interactions with government employees and or officials, law enforcement and general members of the public. At the bottom of the page we have what the letter is, who it's addressed to, and the page number and how many pages there are, just in case it gets printed and they get separated. Paragraph 5 just explains what is happening, that they harass, belittle and berate people in the states of Indiana and the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so we know where it is happening. It says that they show little regard for video and audio recordings from limited and non-public forums, and when instructed to stop, often declaring that it's my right to. They also record violent altercations with law enforcement and government employees, often incited and recorded by the recipients. I then go ahead and list the dates that they first started their videos being on YouTube. Cover the fact that they do live broadcasts, which is the equivalent to a commercial television station doing a live transmission from an outside location. Now paragraph 8, this is where the date of that letter comes into play. This cease and desist letter are to inform the recipients that they are to cease and desist all such actions within 10 days from the date on this letter. And the date on this letter was Sunday, January the 14th, 2024. It then goes on to explain that we are currently going through all the videos that they've done and cataloguing all occurrences, and that if they fail to take notice of this cease and desist letter, then we will be looking at other forms of action up to and not limited to litigation. We then explain that if it proceeds to litigation, recipients are advised that their videos will be presented as evidence. Now these videos are out in the public domain, so we don't need to worry about getting warrants or subpoenas for them. We then inform them that we are downloading those videos so that onto our own computer service, so that if they decide to delete their videos, we have copies of them. paragraph 12, we just point out to them that if it goes to litigation, then a copy of what we find will be given to their lawyer or to them during the discovery process. And paragraph 13 is just a concise paragraph setting out what we expect them to do. And once again, we repeat that they've got 10 days from the date of the letter. And we scroll down and we also have Jackson Kennedy's signature. Now, as this is a letter, it means that we can actually email it out to them. We don't need to have it specially delivered by law enforcement. We could send it via the post. We can email it. We can hand deliver it. Email program, in this case I'm using Gmail. Right, we have the subject, cease and desist letter, Christopher Ryder and Tiffany Napier. We have Christopher Ryder's email address, the subject once again, and just in the body it's Mr. Christopher Ryder and Ms. Tiffany Napier. Please find attached to this email a cease and desist letter. Regards, Jackson Kennedy. If you want to see what happens, this would be a good time to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and how about leaving this video a thumbs up? Leave a comment down in the comments section. I'd like to hear what you think. This is For To Watch. This is the end. But before I go, JJ, any parting words of wisdom?
And
Served.
I think you ought to spend more time trying to get your kids back, and you should spend more time not beating women.